This is the image from an instruction booklet of where we're trying to go next. And as you can see, there's an arm with a claw on the end of it, and that's attached to a gear. And underneath this big gear, there's a smaller gear that's on a shaft that goes to the motor. And as the smaller gear turns, the bigger gear turns, the shaft, I'm sorry, the C channel is attached to the gear, and the arm will move. Okay, I hit the insert and then type the metal, and I'm going to go into the metal folder here, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm looking for what's called an angle brace. It's actually not called an angle brace in here. They just use an L to describe it, but this 2 by 2 by 25, either steel or aluminum is fine. I'll just take the aluminum one and say green check. And this piece is what I'm going to attach a pair of posts to, and the posts will then be used to build the rest of the armature. So the problem with this piece is it's 25 holes long, and it's a little too big. When I'm going to put it in place, it's going to be banging into the gears. So what I'm going to do is offset. It's kind of annoying. I'm going to offset my gears and wheels to be closer to the edges, and that's going to give me enough room to put this in place. So I'll be right back. And now I'll have enough room behind me here to put the posts, and I'm going to say green check on that. So I also noticed that my wheels and gears are not going to be hitting that. Okay, so I've got a 1 by 2 by 25. I'm going to delete this. I don't think I'm going to use that. And I'm going to come in on the side of it and hit a fasten mate at around the 5th hole. And then I'm going to position that somewhere back here. Maybe it's right about there. And let's see, how did that come out? Lots of problems, but let's see. We can reorient it again and again. And that's the way I want it to stick up. That's good. So it's sticking up. And is it hitting the bottom? I think I have some clearance between the bottom of the wheel and that. Yes, I do. I like this because I can attach it on both ends. I can run a screw through the back into it, and I could also run screws from this angle brace into it to help give it some stability. I like where that is. I'm going to say green check. Now I'm going to make a copy of this one and paste it next to me here. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fasten mate about the 5th hole up. And then here's where I don't want it to be too far apart, but I'm just trying to guesstimate. Something like this probably will get me done. And I'm going to have to rotate that twice. And I also looks like I'm going to have to flip the primary axis on that one. Everything looks lined up, and I'm happy with it. Green check. So I took a 3-inch axle, that's this, and I copied it, and then I fastened it to itself to make a 6-inch axle. And then I've placed them 1, 2, 3 basically holes apart, and I have an 84 tooth gear on the top axle and a 12 tooth gear on the bottom. And 12 divided by 84 is 0.14, called 3. So for every one complete rotation of this gear, okay, for every one complete spin, this one will only spin 1.24 of that. So of its spin, I should say. So basically like 12% of a spin. So obviously this one's going to be spinning much slower than this one's going to be spinning. This is how we increase our torque or our rotational force. And we need more rotational force when we're picking up something like an arm that's going to have something at the end of it, like a ball or something like that. We're going to need that extra torque force to lift it up. All right, so when you put those 6-inch axle shafts in place, you're doing that with revolute mates because they need to be able to spin. And so the next thing I'm going to do is put a gear relation in between the two that I just did. So the mates were Revolute 7, which is the one on the bottom, and Revolute 6, which is the one above it. And my relation ratio is going to be 12 teeth by 84 teeth. And I hit the green check. And now if we test it by animating, say, Revolute 7, test and see if we're working. Made it. Yeah, that's better. So we just always have to remember that anytime you have two gears interacting, one should always be spinning clockwise, one should always be spinning and counterclockwise. All right, that's looking much better. Okay, we're ready to put the arm in place so we further know where to put things. I made a copy of one of these C channels, and now I'm going to fasten the C channel here to the shaft. In reality, it would be really fastened to the gear, but just to make sure I get it in the right place, I'm going to do that. And I think I want to flip it like so. And actually, I like it better the other way. Flip it back like this. And then we're going to reorient it a little bit. Let's have it stick out like that so we get a better sense of what's going on. And then we're going to offset it so that it is flush up against the gear. Now I notice another issue I have right away. This gear with the little nub sticking out, that's going to get in my way here a little bit. I'm going to need to flip this gear around. Darn it. And now we can go back to this other fasten 16 and bump it over. So we're going to offset it until it is up against that gear, which is probably like -3 inches. But we'll be running screws through the gear into that. So good enough. Let's call that a day there. And now if this gear were to rotate, you can see that that piece is going to move along with it. And that's what we're looking for. That's our arm. Let's take a look at what it looks like from this angle. So as this comes down, we have an arm. Now it's not long enough, you see, but we can extend that with another piece of C channel, which we will do. So, but right now we're looking pretty good. What we want to do next is, and I'm not going to do all this, I'm just going to tell you, you want to put another one of these gears on this side and another small gear underneath it, and I'll be back. All right, so I put the other gears on, and that's the setup. And now we're going to add the motor. So I've got the motor in place. I'm just going to fasten the motor to the post over here, but make sure that the place where the motor shaft goes is going to line up with that shaft. So we're going to pick a fasten mate here. I'll just pick the hole right below. I don't think I picked anything there. Let's try that again. There it is. And then we're going to pick the spot on the motor right next to the place where you put that. And let's see, we're all on the wrong side. So flip the primary and we're going to orient it. And that looks great. That's how we want it to be. We're already done. Check. And at this point, this is the basic build for your arm. And if we revolute, say 8, or animate, sorry, here we go. And that's what your arm is going to look like. Let's stop it for a minute. Let's also start experimenting around. So 174 degrees might be, say, the end value I want to get to, 174. And I do want it to reciprocate, but if I want to make the animation go much faster, I'll change the steps to 100. Now I play it, and I can see it go up to 100 and say 74, and then it should come back down. So you can see how my assembly is going to work. All right, congratulations if you got that done. It's pretty tricky.